free UPS shipping, and add code radio for an extra 5% off.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A rough night for both of LA's baseball teams. The Dodgers lost their fifth straight game. They went down 3-1 at Milwaukee. Milwaukee rookie pitcher Jacob Misiorowski had 12 strikeouts in 6 innings. The Angels were routed at home 13-1 by Texas. The Lakers introduced new center DeAndre Ayton Tuesday at a press conference. Ayton, the number 1 pick in the 2018 NBA draft, signed with the Lakers 2 weeks ago as a free agent. The 26-year-old Ayton has career averages of 16.4 points, 10.5 rebounds, and a 59% shooting percentage. The men's basketball teams at Hampton and North Carolina A&T were selected to play in the 2026 NBA HBCU Classic during All-Star Weekend. The NBA All-Star Game is February 15th at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, man. Hey, what's up, What's that station you listening to? Oh, man, you don't know? That's Talk Radio. KBLA, 1580 AM. Check it out. 1580 KBLA. KBLA AM. 1580 Talk Radio. Progressive.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're celebrating our 4th anniversary, and this track right here is the gift one of our devoted listeners presented to us.
Where you get some information, get a true education, just to know. Ooh, yeah. 1580.
How cool is that? Having a member of our KBLA delegation write us a song. Stop it! Our listeners love us, and there ain't nothing we can do about it. Wouldn't want to. Thanks to Cardell and everybody else for turning on KBLA Talk 1580. We love you right black.
KBLA 1580 Talk Radio. KBLA. Ooh, KBLA 1580 Talk Radio. Progressive.
KBLA Talk 1580. Calm down. Talking to myself right now. I'm really excited to welcome into the conversation an Atlanta-based licensed therapist and coach doing virtual and in-person counseling, wellness programs to help high-achieving individuals prioritize themselves and build healthier relationships, navigate life. Leading expert in the field, a nationally recognized health educator, and licensed professional counselor, Dr. Tavari Brown. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yay! All right, that's perfect. Well, then you know all of the kinds of things we talk about and why we need to be talking to you today.
Yeah, and let me start with "Don't You Dare Calm Down." That, I was kind of listening to the segment beforehand, and just how important it is for us to stay informed and to really keep our finger on the pulse. And I know that you're able to help your listeners do that. I think as a therapist, there's a balance, right? That we're talking in our communities about how do we utilize our energy? How do we preserve our energy? How do we conserve our energy? But being a part of the 92%, we can't sit back and allow for other people to determine our future. So we have to continue to play a hand in that. I think what our strategy has to be is figuring out what does that look like for us? What does that look like for our communities? And what does that look like for us as individuals and our families?
Yeah, it's really well said, Dr. Brown. I mean, this idea that the 92% can just be like, we're out, you all are on FAFO, we're just going to sit and watch America burn. It sounds funny, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't track. The problem is, though, that I don't want to be, and this is a conversation I'm having with myself every day because I know it's my job to inform folks and engage people and help ourselves to understand what's going on. But I don't want to be part of the epidemic of fear because the fear is bigger than the problems in many cases.
Absolutely. So I think that's the piece where it is first and foremost an acknowledgement that we as a people have put so much energy into the well-being of this country. You are correct. We can't afford to let it go down. But at the same time, that becomes that titration, right? It's figuring out what is the balance between that? What is it that I am able to do? First, acknowledging that we're tired, that we've done a lot of work and we want to be able to pass the torch to somebody else. But also recognizing that if we're on a team, we don't just pass the ball and close our eyes. We don't pass the ball and then walk out of the stadium, right? We're going to pass the ball and we're going to watch our teammate to make sure that they are competent and capable of dribbling the ball, but also that we're able to step up and allow for them the space to pass the ball back when they're ready, when we're ready, when everybody's prepared. And that really speaks to that piece of allyship. A book that I often reference that I don't get paid to endorse her, but it's Tricia Hearsay's Rest is Resistance. I think that's a really good one that acknowledges that we don't necessarily owe this country more of our bodies, that our grandparents and forefathers paid that debt for us in full, but at the same time recognizing that we can't just close our eyes and take our hand off the wheel, that we're still in this car and we have to be able to participate, even if we're not currently driving at this time.
It's funny because at our State of Black Women in LA gathering around Juneteenth weekend, which was part of the celebration of 4 years of KBLA, we got into a rather heated or spirited, I should say, discussion among the women on the panel. Dr. Melina Abdullah was saying rest is not a strategy, right? And some others were saying, well, we need to rest, we need to rejuvenate. If we don't do that, we can't keep fighting. And so there was a bit of a rub there, right? Some tension there because this right now there's a lot of, it's all about Black joy and it's all about rest and rejuvenation, which is good. But at the same time, like you said, don't you dare calm down. This is not the time to just be only resting.
Absolutely. And so let's think about rest in our own bodies, right? Like how important it is to actually sleep. That rats in laboratories die when they're sleep deprived, that's a torture technique and that level of hypervigilance. And that's something that we as a community are really good at, staying hypervigilant. And then you look at our numbers, you look at life expectancy. Of all groups, life expectancy for Black men is still the lowest. Why is that? There's a level of stress and hypervigilance that kills us. So no, we can't go full throttle all the time. Yes, we have to recover. From a literal sleep perspective, we should be spending 1/8 of the day asleep. 1/3 of the day. So that's about 8 hours a night. Give or take a couple of hours, you have to check in with your own body. Some people function really well on 6. Some people need 9 or 10. But let's say, it's an average of 1/3 of the day, so 8 hours a day. That means if in a literal translation, we would spend 1/3 of our lives asleep. If we slept really well, we would spend 1/3 of our lives asleep. Again, Are we asleep and there's no one in the watchtower? Absolutely not. That somebody is assigned to the watchtower while we are sleeping, that the recovery piece is important. It is what fuels us to not only move forward, but also it allows us to be more creative. When we can step back and think about, what is it that I want? What is it that's a priority for me? What is it that's important to me? What are my capabilities? What is my capacity? That we're not, burning ourselves on both ends, and we're not running out of bandwidth. That we recognize, like, how much energy can I put here? Where's my energy best utilized? That even in the fight, there are people who are holding up the home front, who are cooking, who are tending to the injured. That everybody has a role, everybody has a task, and there are different times when we lean in. I'm going to go back really quickly to the car analogy. I am a bit of a type A personality outside of my house. I run my own business. I engage with people. I'll sit and have this conversation with you. But when I walk into my own home, I want to take my Superwoman cape off. And one of my girlfriends kind of questioned how my energy is different outside of my home versus inside my home. I appear passive in my home. And that's because I have a partner who can lead, who I want to lead. I literally don't drive. When my partner and I leave the house, I say to him, which car would you like to drive, my car or his car? But he's always literally driving. But let me be really clear with you. I don't want this man to drive me into a ditch. So even though I have allowed him to sit into the driver's seat to navigate us, I need him to know that I'm capable of driving. So at the point where he gets tired and he can't do it anymore, I want him to know that he can turn to me and say, hey, babe, I'm tired. Can you take the wheel? And I'm going to say, absolutely, because I'm capable of taking the wheel. Not because I want to drive all the time, but I am capable of driving. And that will allow us to pull over, to reset, for me to take the wheel for a while, to give him the time to recover, to rest, to refuel, to think things through in a different way, to look around and enjoy our surroundings. I think it's the same thing in this fight, that there are times where we're leaning in and there are times when we're sitting back, but we have to be able to do both.
Yeah, got to be able to do both. Some unusual times, a lot of things that we're processing, and I'm glad that you're here with us, Dr. Tavari Brown. When we continue this conversation, I want to look at how some of these things that we're reading in the news, that are taking over the social media feeds, that are actually in our faces in real life, how they impact our psychological well-being and what we can do to navigate them better. I'm talking to so many people who are depressed, angry, scared, in fight or flight mode because of the news. How do we stay centered, balanced, fearless, and viable? And not get sucked into a cycle that is not in our best interest. We'll look at that when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
No one wants to leave behind stress for their family. That's why a trust or a will is so important. Without one, your assets might go to the wrong people or leave out loved ones. Also, probate is long, expensive, and often avoidable with a revocable trust. Trustandwill.com makes it simple to create a personalized estate plan. A trust or will provides clarity and peace of mind. Get 20% off on your estate plan documents by visiting trustandwill.com/radio.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify.
Paul's new drone startup just lost its most genius computer scientist.
We just lost our best genius to some new genius who's got a genius new idea. I'm gonna have to find a new genius, or two half geniuses, and fast.
He needs a computer scientist that can keep his startup from falling down.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit FVGradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
I do appreciate you. You're waking up not just with me, you're waking up with Dr. Tavari Brown, a licensed professional counselor, therapist, a former CDC leader. And I was thinking about having you on the show for the first time, and I was reflecting on the ICE raids that are happening in our city. Yesterday, basically the military marched into MacArthur Park when there was a camp taking place for young kids. Those kids had to be removed. Children are being pulled out of school. I talked to one teacher. She said only about 20% of her class was attending school because they were worried about their parents being picked up while they were gone, or them being picked up from school. Daycares, now they have to have a plan. What do we do if your parent gets abducted by ICE while you're at daycare? What kind of impact is this having on kids and parents, and how do we do it right? How do we protect ourselves from a psychological standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. And so there are two concerns, right? So it's the level of stress and anxiety that adults are experiencing, and also the level of stress and anxiety that children are experiencing. And I would take two separate developmental approaches. So I'd say one, for adults to have those safety plans in place for their own psychological and physical well-being. So what is the plan if I get scooped up or somebody else I know is detained? You know, what is that? Do we have a phone tree in place? Is there someone who can respond to elderly parents who may or may not be aware, or to children, to have those kinds of logistical plans in place? At the same time, we're turning to our children and saying to our children, hey, there are a lot of moving parts out there. This is what I have. Because what children are going to do is they're looking to us to lead. They're looking at us for their emotional regulation. So if we're anxious, if we're depressed, if we're scared, if we don't seem confident in our future, then they're not going to be confident either. So as leaders to young people, we have to demonstrate to them that we have some sense of control, or at least a plan in place. Hey, if I don't come home, then this is the person to look for. Or, hey, if I'm not back by a certain time, expect a call from this person, expect this person to show up. This is an exercise that I actually went through with my child, just about if somebody approaches you and says, hey, your mom or your dad sent me here to pick you up. my kid and I went through a list of people where it'd be reasonable for these people to pick her up, but no one else. What might that look like? How do we keep ourselves safe? Where do we go? Do we have a safe rendezvous point that we'll go to if something happens, particularly in a public setting? So as we're going into a public setting like MacArthur Park, what is our safety plan? What is our exit strategy? And being able to talk to children in a matter-of-fact way, the way that we used to talk about fire drills or tornado drills, or if there's an earthquake, this is what you do. Giving them a step-by-step plan as much as possible. I think for the overall kind of anxiety and depression that people are experiencing, some of it is not necessarily consuming all of this stuff. We know that some of these are distractions from other things. So why are we sending in the National Guard to California when the governor's not asking for it? Oh, to detract from the fact that the thing that we were talking about before was Trump and Elon Musk going after each other. Now all of a sudden the media pivots, and we're no longer talking about the Tesla that's moving in and out of the White House and what's going to happen to it. He is allowed for this kind of media bait and switch. So with a lot of my clients who really suffer from anxiety and depression, I'm saying let's be intentional about what you're consuming, what media you're consuming, where you're getting information from, how often you're getting information. For some people, it doesn't make sense for them to constantly be looking at a Facebook feed or an IG feed or watching the news constantly, that perhaps for our own mental health and well-being, we set aside specific times when we're going to check in with media and find out what's going on. So I might say to myself, I'm not going to sit here and doom scroll on social media. I'm only going to look at social media during these times of the day. Or I might say, you know what, I'm going to check out from the news cycle and social media for 24 hours, but I'm going to assign someone to let me know if there's something important that I need to know right away. That person has my phone number. They can call me and say, hey, we need to be aware of what's going on here. I'm in the watchtower. I'm keeping an eye out for the things that are important for us.
Yeah, those are great points.
But we can't be ostriches.
I mean, I'm a news person. This is my job, but typically you won't find me reading newspapers on Saturdays. It's like Sunday through Friday, because I need a break. And just as a side note or an addendum, the mayor of Los Angeles has joined a lawsuit brought by the ACLU, Montebello, Culver City, Monterey Park, Pasadena, Santa Monica, West Hollywood, to try to stop ICE from functioning in our city. So I understand what you're saying. There's one plan for kids and there's one plan for adults. I wonder if it's worth pointing out that even if you're not a migrant, even if you're not under threat, like most African Americans probably aren't, we hope so far, that our children might be impacted because they're seeing what's happening with other kids, other families that they go to school with, that they're reading and seeing, and they may be impacted even if the odds of you being deported are slim.
Yeah, and so I think it's a piece of it is the control of how much content our kids get, and that is developmentally appropriate as well, right? So, a couple of years ago when there was the school shooting in Uvalde, my daughter was young. She was a first or second grader. I could not let her get that data. I could not let her hear those stories. I actually that morning, and I'm a news junkie, so I usually was listening to NPR and realized like, I'm going to have to listen to a piccolo. There was literally a piccolo playing, and my daughter and I pretended that we were chasing down the ice cream truck at 7:30 in the morning. I knew that kid could not process that. Even with the camps that have flooded in Texas on the 4th of July, my daughter and I she's now 10, so there are children her age who've died. I have tried to keep that content away from her because it wasn't something that I felt like I was in a space to process with her over the weekend. With older children, so at 10, there are things that we can talk about. We can talk about, hey, when you're at camp, what is the safety plan? What are you going to do? with our teenagers who are taking in information or processing it. We can have these conversations. But part of the conversation I had with her about someone picking her up was about her fears of being kidnapped. My kid has a fear of being kidnapped. Where it came from, and she's an African-American child. Where that fear came from, I'm not sure. But in that, for her to recognize that I'm taking her to places where she's safe. Our school system said that they would not let ICE in. It's a FERPA those are violations on these children's rights. People were into the ICE or these individuals, whoever they are, were trying to access school doors. Like these are safe spaces, and we're dropping our children off in places where we know that there are individuals who would lay down their lives for our children. So I think some of that is having these conversations with the systems. Where are we going, and what is the plan for those systems? Be it my church, my place of worship, my child's school, or my place of employment. To understand what are their policies, what are they going to do if somebody comes in and says, hey, I need to see this person or ask for this person, or even if they have a warrant in their hands, what is their process, what are the policies, and then to have those conversations at the dinner table about what do we do, how are we moving in a way that feels like we're safe. And, as much as, Black folks, I think, can sit around and say, well, that's somebody else's problem. It's not. They will come for us next. And so to be very clear with ourselves about I'm safe right now, and these are the things that we have in place, but we might have to create an underground railroad to move our Guatemalan, Nicaraguan, Mexican, South and Central American friends, and there might come a day when we might need that as well. And I think those are honest conversations that we can have while we can still have them. It's putting that infrastructure in place.
Only got a couple minutes here until news, traffic, and sports, so I don't want to, open the next page. But when we look at, we're talking about the news cycle, and I feel like it's important to be informed. But I also am talking to a lot of folks, especially people who are less media literate, maybe some chronologically gifted people who aren't as quick on the internet, or folks who just get overwhelmed, that are feeling very scared, fearful. And
some of that is, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about how amazing this AI is, that I'm able to look at a news story and decipher that's not real. I mean, in some places, there's some of it that's really so good that even I wouldn't be able to decipher it. But I'm coming in with this critical lens. I'm also teaching my child how to use a critical lens, why this doesn't make sense, why, but also where are we vetting our information from? So what are our trusted news sources? And I think some of the traditional places have become questionable because we've polarized ourselves so much in this country. But I think that becomes, again, those collective conversations, be it in, despite the separation of church and state, obviously the federal government is all in our places of worship. But so be it at our dinner table or in our communities or in our places of worship or in school, for us to have a collective conversation about where are we getting good information from, and perhaps only focusing on those places. Even when you see these little media pop-ups about a celebrity that's passed away, I don't jump on the bandwagon. I'm looking for 3 different sources to tell me that. And I'm also doing a quick Wikipedia search to see whether or not that's true. So we have to be better detectives, better news detectives to decipher where's that information coming from. But I think, to your point about that we have some people who aren't as nimble in that space. If we know that we have family members who are more likely to consume it like junk food, they're going to consume whatever's in front of them, whatever's fast and easy, for us to turn to those family members and say, hey, don't go to Facebook for your news.
Yeah, it's a great point. Talking with Dr. Tavari Brown, we continue the conversation after news, traffic, and sports, and you're invited in, as always, 800-920-1580. We are KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump is brushing off questions about Jeffrey Epstein, calling them a waste of time.
This guy's been talked about for years. We have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
This comes after a Department of Justice report found no client list and ruled Epstein's 2019 death a suicide. Former TV Judge Joe Brown and Alex Jones claim Trump may be hiding Epstein files to use against the deep state. Despite Trump's past ties to Epstein, he's called him a creep. Critics, including Elon Musk, say President Trump's silence fuels conspiracy theories. And Baltimore hits a 50-year low in homicides, just 68 through June. Black Mayor Brandon Scott credits the nearly 23% drop to treating gun violence as a public health issue with help from community groups, police, and residents. He says there's still more work ahead. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Rapid radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. Perfect for instant contact with an aging parent. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com and you'll get an extra 60% off, free UPS shipping, and add code radio for an extra 5% off.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A rough night for both of LA's baseball teams. The Dodgers lost their fifth straight game. They went down 3-1 at Milwaukee. Milwaukee rookie pitcher Jacob Mizorowski had 12 strikeouts in 6 innings. The Angels were routed at home 13-1 by Texas. The Lakers introduced new center DeAndre Ayton Tuesday at a press conference. Ayton, the number 1 pick in the 2018 NBA draft, signed with the Lakers 2 weeks ago as a free agent. The 26-year-old Ayton has career averages of 16.4 points, 10.5 rebounds, and a 59% shooting percentage. The men's basketball teams at Hampton and North Carolina A&T were selected to play in the 2026 NBA HBCU Classic during All-Star Weekend. The NBA All-Star Game is February 15th at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, family. This is Dr. Rosa Milligan, self-appointed mayor of South Central LA. I'm sounding the alarm. AI, artificial intelligence, is not coming. It's already here. Join me with a powerful Zoom seminar that will teach you how to use AI for your personal and business use. Go to mytechacademy.net or call 213-878-4742.
Let's be real. Too many black businesses missed out on COVID PPP loans because they weren't tech ready. We can't afford to be left behind again. This time, we must lead. Register today at mytechacademy.net or call 213-878-4742.
You know me, Dr. Rosa, trusted voice of the people, 50 years fighting for literacy, technology, and living trust education. And now, I got your back on AI. Go to mytechacademy.net or call 213-878-4742. Your future is calling. Answer it.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Everyone has a fave Wendy's Frosty flavor. And when you're choosing from chocolate or vanilla, it's not that hard. But now, there's all new Frosty Swirls and Frosty Fusions. So try picking your fave from Oreo Brownie Fusion, Pop-Tarts Strawberry Fusion, Strawberry Swirl, Brownie Batter Swirl, Caramel Swirl, and Caramel Crunch Fusion. Not so easy now, huh? For a fresh way to Frosty, gotta be Wendy's. Open till midnight or later.
At participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location. Oreo is a trademark of Mondelez International Group. Pop-Tarts is a trademark of Kellogg North America Co., LLC.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth. Hello, Joe. You're up. Welcome.
We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
Dr. Tavari Brown is my guest. She is a therapist, a licensed counselor, and specializes in lots of things, including helping what you call people pleasers and high achievers with boundaries. Boundaries. It seems like we hear that more. I love the little kids song that's all over the internet about that's just a boundary. However, it seems maybe right now they're more important than ever with what is happening in our world. Talk to me about how we can use boundaries to protect ourselves from sort of being battered by news cycles, trends, and energy around us of freaked out, polarized, angry people.
Yeah, and so boundaries are about, I often tell my clients that boundaries are the space in which I can love me and you at the same time. So it's not okay for me to just love myself and ignore your needs. It's also not okay for me to love you and ignore my own needs. So it's that place where I can hold both. And that's a place of safety and of clarity. One of the things that we were talking about was even just like the news cycle and what we're allowing to come in. And I would say a good boundary for individuals to use is to recognize, like, how much content can I process? How much can I take in? Where do I want to get that information from? And then being discerning and being able to vet it. So one of the things I was even thinking about was, for those of us who feel like we can have a hold on it or know where we want to get key information, to ask our elders or ask our children to come to us if they have questions. So if I feel like I'm the most discerning person in my 4-generation family, that if there's a concern, if my grandmother who's 91 has dementia, she hears something, but she's following the news cycle, if she hears something of concern, that before she responds to it, that she give me a call and bounce it off me. For me to turn to my mother who's in her late 60s and say, hey, if you see something online that's of concern, if you hear something that's of concern, use me as a sounding board, bounce it off me. And for me also to turn to my daughter who's 10 and do the same thing. When information comes to you, if you have questions about it, or it seems like something of concern, that you bring it to me. The other boundary that I need is to be able to say, hey, there's only so much that I can carry. And I'm available to you. My phone is open to you from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. But for our family and our loved ones to know, unless the house is on fire, I have a set time when I need to download, I need to, reset myself, and to say, be very clear with individuals about, my phone's on Do Not Disturb, not because I don't want to talk to you, not because I don't love you, but because I need some quiet time to myself, so that we're creating, as we were talking about at the top of the show, creating that space of rest and reprieve for ourselves, that we're honest with ourselves that we need our own recovery time as well, and that we communicate that, not in a way that feels like conflict with our family members, but in a way that feels like clarity.
Conflict versus clarity. I feel like this Diddy trial has opened lots of cans of worms, not just in terms of the content, right, of what was discussed on the stand, what was discussed even before the trial, from baby oil to freak-offs and everything in between, but also the actual polarization of people taking sides, as far as Diddy versus Cassie or men versus women. How does that impact people's well-being, their mental health?
I think it really is when these types of issues, particularly when it comes to power dynamics, come into play. I think it reveals something about our values, one as a people, because I often really focus on Blackness. So when I'm talking about us, I'm talking about us, like our values and what's important to us, and also how much of the greater culture has kind of seeped in. And so this gender divisiveness has been a technique that has been used against us for hundreds of years in this country. And it is a way of making us weaker as opposed to stronger. And so, I wish I could see you when you were saying words like baby oil, like the fact that most of us, we hear this content and start shaking our heads, but there's really a power dynamic there. And so let's look at the power dynamic that comes when an individual has money and there are people around him that are subservient to him. And even for us to look at ourselves and look at how do we utilize power dynamics in our own relationships, be it through power, through money, through gender, through age. I think those are the more interesting conversations, is to talk about the haves versus the have-nots, and what is it that the haves are able to get away with. And a lot of times we are having a gendered conversation about men with money and power and what are their behaviors and what does that look like. I think these are informative conversations. Unfortunately, when they come up, I learn things about people that maybe I don't want to know when it comes to their thought processes.
Yeah.
But beating the victim, beating somebody who is under a psychological control of someone else is fascinating. I think we have to really hold up the mirror and look at ourselves and look at who are we as a people and what are our values when it comes to victim blaming and victim shaming.
Yeah, agreed. I also think that part of that gender divide, I love that you put it in the context of the way that it's been specifically weaponized with melanated folks to keep us weak, going all the way back to the days of enslavement. There is a sense that, and we've seen it with the Tory Lanez case too, where women and men are divided around this to some extent, and there's a sense that Black men feel they are under attack, and in that space I have mixed feelings, because it does seem like every Black billionaire or almost billionaire man ends up with a case, and that doesn't seem coincidental. At the same time, you want to hold people accountable for their behavior and help us understand those power dynamics.
Agreed. And I think we live in a culture where you see other people with bad behaviors who get a slap on their hand. And even
or they get to be president.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I think even the divisiveness there are Democrats in the past who we can point to. Let's just go to Cuomo, right? Let's point to his that is bad behavior. There are, when you hear about the bad behavior,
the governor of New York is who you're referring to, of course. Yeah.
Yes. That we can't make excuses for poor behavior on anyone's part, but let's look at how, Cuomo versus Trump, or Cuomo versus the gentleman whose name I can't think of, who was sworn into the Supreme Court. That there are some people
Clarence
who
Thomas.
have bad behavior.
Or maybe Brett Kavanaugh.
Oh, no. Sure. Keep going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Keep rattle through the list. Yeah, Brett Kavanaugh. But the fact that there are some people who get away with it, there's some people who aren't. And I hear your point about being very sensitive to, Puffy or Bill Cosby, and how there are other people who aren't melanated who have had the same behaviors who seem to go unscathed versus, but there's that. So it becomes, a complex conversation. Like, again, do we excuse the behavior? Why? Is it not bad behavior? How do we address that bad behavior? And then, is there a different standard depending on how much money you have, whether or not you get away with the behavior, whether you're a male, whether or not you get away with the behavior, or where you are, what political party you belong to, that you get rid of that you get along with that behavior. And I think that becomes a greater question for us about, equal treatment under the law. There is no equal treatment under the law. Those laws are placed there for the masses. It allows us to keep the masses in control. But there are people who will skirt around these processes, including the man who's in the White House right now. And as a people, if we recognize that, what do we want to do about that? Rather than just sitting and talking about baby oil and what someone else's bad behavior was, is like, what is our position? Do we have a blanket position about when people behave this way, what does this mean? And that should be applied to everyone? Or are we going to allow other people to make excuses for their friends and allow their friends to continue to be successful versus communities that look like our own who are taken down?
Right.
But, I often think about Barack Obama. Like, this dude has got to have the cleanest nose possible because they would have taken him down. Like, that is amazing. What an amazing human being, because they would have taken him out if he were to trip on the sidewalk incorrectly.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and there's also always the question of whether, the behavior is what they say it is, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, because all that Emmett Till stuff comes up, all the long legacy of black men being falsely accused.
Punished and persecuted.
Yeah. So it does become a complex conversation, but I love that, Dr. Brown, you're bringing it back to, our own accountability for ourselves and our loved ones, because we are not the judge and juries of Diddy, nor Bill Cosby, nor Jeffrey Epstein, or any of them, and we are accountable for our own behavior, and hopefully, expecting that accountability from our loved ones as well.
Yeah, and so one of my thoughts, even from a positive perspective, is for us to figure out what it is that we can do. There will always be crisis. There will always be war somewhere. There will always be something that's happening that we as a country tend to be reactionary. But I want us to start thinking about, how can I be more proactive? What can I do? What can I contribute? What's within my scope of work? So as we're thinking about ICE raids and children's safety, how are we thinking about what can I do to keep my neighbor's children safe? Because those are my children. What can I do if, because there are lots of cuts in the Department of Education. That's the stuff that's starting to come to me now is, please recognize that during this school year, there's services that our children got in the past that aren't going to be available to them. So if I am a retired educator, do I want to start a literacy program within my church, within my community, to help the ESOL students also help adults with literacy? Because they're making cuts to adult literacy programs. They're also making cuts to programs within the schools. So how am I in my community going to help to fill in that gap? And that's, it's one of the beauty. I went to UC Berkeley as an undergrad, so I know parts of California really well. And that's one of the beautiful things about the Black Panther Party is those were young kids who were actually coming up with, they saw a need in their community. There was a kid who was hit by a vehicle crossing the street after school, and they said, there's no way this should be happening in our communities. We're 18, 19, 20-year-olds. We're going to stand out there when school closes and make sure these kids get across the street. Oh, wow, these kids are going to school hungry. Let's start a breakfast program. That we need to go back to some of our old community skills and start doing those things. If we recognize that our neighbors aren't eating and we have food in our pantry or we have extra meat in our freezer, that we're cooking extra food and we're serving in our communities, that we're making sure that if my kid eats, that not only does my neighbor's kid eat, but my neighbor's neighbor kid eats. If my kid is learning some type of skill, whether it's robotics or Lego, maybe I'm making a donation towards a program that offers tutoring so that 2 additional children can participate in that tutoring program. Because I can't teach math. I have a PhD in counseling, but I'm not a mathematician. But I'm going to make sure that every kid in my neighborhood gets the skills and the supplement that my kid gets, because her school won't be able to offer it in the fall.
Talking with Dr. Tavari Brown. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986,
Litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least liked to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Yeah. At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
We're talking with Dr. Tavari Brown. And before we wrap up this conversation, Dr. Brown, tell folks how they can access you. I know you do mental health counseling, you do corporate training for people-pleasing high achievers, exceptional folks. You also have a lot of workshops and seminars going on. How can people find out what's going on with you?
Absolutely. And let me just say that we are all high achieving and we are all excellent. I think a lot of times I'm helping my clients. I'm helping them kind of tap into their excellence. Sometimes there are other people sometimes we're trying to dim our own light and dim our own shine. Sometimes we have people around us who are trying to dim us. So a lot of my clients, I'm helping them to sit sweetly in that space of self-love and allowing themselves to shine so that they can shine on others. My name is Dr. Tavari Brown. You can find me on IG at Dr._Tavari, TAVARI _therapy, or at my website, and that is ttbhealth.net. And I love talking to people. I love connecting with people. And I do want to say, one of my calls of action is that you can't pour from an empty cup. And so I want first for people, this is first things first. So first things first is that we make sure that our own cup is full, that in the morning that we are taking time for some quiet time to ourselves, and that might include some type of meditation or prayer or just pausing to drink some tea and look out the window and look at nature or look at something beautiful. But then we also, once our cup is full, that we're also pouring into others. So that might mean a contribution back to 1580 to make sure that shows like these continue. It might be a small contribution to a community organization that's doing good work, but that we are pouring into ourselves so that we can pour back into others. That we are loving ourselves so that we can better love others. And sometimes people feel like it feels selfish to focus on ourselves or to focus on self-care, but that's what makes us better community members, better partners, better parents, better adult children to our own aging parents, and that is what allows us to continue to move forward as a collective and to make changes in our communities.
When you talk about self-care, what kind of things do you mean in these times, in these trying times? I have a number of girlfriends. I am not a licensed counselor nor a PhD, but I have a number of girlfriends that I regularly talk off the ledge, and a couple of male friends too. Given the political and economic environment.
Yeah, some of it, sometimes we talk about self-care and people talk about bubble baths and manicures, and maintenance is cute. Maintenance is really nice. I'm glad you're getting a regular manicure and that your hairdresser knows your name. That's fantastic. But I think the real pour back in is making sure that we are feeding our spirit. So emotionally feeding our spirit, intellectually feeding our spirit. One of the first things that I did after the election, in November, was decide that I wanted to do a type of return to home. And what I decided to do is I wanted to go back and read through all of Toni Morrison's work. Toni Morrison, because she was born in Lorain, Ohio, I was born in Elyria, Ohio, so I feel like she's like a sister spirit. But to turn off the television, I'm a news junkie, and I used to watch all of the Sunday morning news programs. I have not done that since November. That I stopped watching consuming the television, and I decided that I wanted to go back to reading Black literature and reading the things that poured into me as a girl that maybe I didn't have time to look into, and setting that time aside. So that just like how we carve out time to go to them folks' a job, and we make it a priority to go to them folks' meetings, that we are carving out time for a meeting with ourselves. And just because my calendar might be empty on a day doesn't mean that I'm doing nothing, that I'm actively doing something like resting. I'm actively doing something that pours back into me. So that might mean giving myself permission to take a nap in the middle of the day or on a Saturday, or giving myself permission to go out in nature. You guys are in California, so making sure that I'm going to water because that replenishes me, or I might go for a hike in the mountains, or maybe I'm just doing a 10-minute walk around my neighborhood to reconnect with nature, to get outside of the house, to get outside of my own head. There's so much anxiety that lives inside of our own minds that, sometimes we just need to use a friend as a sounding board and even say, hey, I'm going through something. Do you have a minute to listen? Maybe it is carving out time to say to our friends, hey, I have some extra time. Does anybody need anything? Do you need me to run by the store for you, or do you need just an ear? Can we carve out some time to go for a walk together rather than meeting for dinner or cocktails or consuming, to meet a friend and say, let's just go for a walk, and I just want to check in with you and see where your head's at and if there's anything that I can do to make your day better. But to give ourselves joy, but also to give that joy back and contribute into our communities in that way.
Yeah, it's a great place to start, to launch. Dr. Tavari Brown, it's been great speaking with you, meeting you on the radio. Dr._Tavari_therapy on Instagram, TBP Health.
No, TTB Health. TTB. Tavari Taylor Brown. TTB.
TTBhealth.net on
correct,
the World Wide Web. And I look forward to talking with you again, I hope.
It's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got a full lineup for you today. As usual, she's got a great show on deck. I want to remind you to tap in with me on all the socials as well. I'm at DiPrima Radio, RIMA, and then radio everywhere. Even have a YouTube channel. Please like, follow, subscribe, make a smart comment. Yes, I'm still on X. My favorite is Instagram, and I'm on the come up trail on TikTok. Also, you can find the station at KBLA 1580 everywhere. The book, Rest is Resistance. Someone requested that we restate the book, Rest is Resistance, a manifesto by Tricia Hersey. And let me say, my mom, the great poet laureate of San Francisco, used to say, history is now. That she had a bumper sticker. I added in, we're making it together, because I feel like we do that every day on the microphone, in these streets in protest, and on the air. Until next time, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump is
talking about this guy, this creep.
This comes after a Department of Justice report found no client